Alice in Wonderland actually is like the white rabbit. It brings surprises. The fact that I'm standing here is another surprise for me, if not a miracle. 7 years ago, when I published my Chinese Annotated Alice, I never imagined that I could be able to stand here speaking to a group of Carolians. It surprised me. I must thank Mark for his kind arrangement that I can stand here. And especially I want to thank, sorry, I want to thank another for this book that I brought up. The purpose for this book is that to introduce the difference between my book and the English Annotated Alice. And many of you know the well of the English Annotated book, but why I'm going to tell you is the difference. The purpose for this Annotated Alice is for the benefit of the Chinese, but many of you might be interested as well for the rest of the part. Okay, here is the, here's the story of my journey with my Alice in Wonderland. I started about in early 1980s with the first book without a name, whose translator is I don't know the name, and then we have found a very good translation by Wei Zhao, the best translator ever of all times. And then I found the Annotated Alice, for Northern edition. And by this time, I know I'm just off and on reading the books. And in 1990s, nothing happened except that I found two books, Martin Carlos, the more annotated Alice, and the Alice in Many Tongues. And by this time, Weaver's book influenced me more and inspired me more because I started to collect Chinese translation, and I started to establish a list of Chinese translation editions. By 2000, I found I have enough information. I started to write articles in Chinese about translation of Alice, and I've come up with 4 articles in 3 years. The first 2 about the translation of Chinese, and the other one is about Wei Zhao, the best translator ever of all times, and the other one is about the Pan translation, also inspired by Weaver. And then in the year 2010, I published my first annotated Alice, Wonderland, and the second year I published the Looking Glass, and the third year the Wonderland was published in China, 2003, and in this year, same year, I joined the team as the contributor for the Alice in the World of Wonderlands. And then 2004, when I retired, I started to write articles for Night Letters. And as of today, maybe the third one will be coming, right? And also another article was also published in Beijing about the banning of Alice in China, this article in Chinese. So all in all, it spent about 37 years for my journey of Alice, and I don't know what happened next. In Martin Carlos, and more introduction to more annotated Alice, he mentioned about 2 things which I could not avoid. This is the Victorian events and customs and jokes about Oxford and private jokes. I have to accept it as it is, and accept that I rewrite it. And for this part, his collection of existing literatures, I try to avoid whenever possible. Okay, so this is the method I use to transform Martin Carlos' book into my books: addition, omission, substitution, simplification, and relocation. I explain it when it comes. And many other themes added in the Chinese edition includes metric conversion is for the Chinese, and logic. I don't know why Martin Carlos seldom mention about it, right? And the Victorian education system, Dollhouse, also Martin did not mention about, and English grammar is for the purpose of the Chinese. And then cost living in Victoria whenever money is involved. And additional Victorian parlor games, Victorian etiquette, I don't know, is not mentioned much in Gunner's annotation. And things related to Alice, Carol, and Victorian times. And chess moves is for Chinese. You don't need it. Table of Alice heights and list of Chinese translated versions, list of translated languages, and all of this. You can see similar information in this two information was also similar to the Alice in the World of Wonderland, and also Mark has included list of translated in his new version. Okay, in order to learn chess, I have to depend on this article to learn how the chess is moving, and then these are the information that I need to learn in order to make a difference from Martin Gardner's annotation. I think most of them are familiar to you, except this one, the Japanese book about the praises of Oxford and so forth. I'm glad that this one is very valuable. Otherwise, for others, I think you are so familiar with. And here I'm going to introduce my book. I'll spend about 30 minutes for my article, but I prepare more information than this, so I stop whenever the time stops. And okay, this is the book. Looks like to create special features, I've involved one Alice with her full height in the book. And another specialty about this book is that you have a fold out like this in this book. Okay, and this fold out and have attached a chart showing the differences in height for the 12 changes. All are provided, all the measurements are provided by Lewis Carroll, except the one in red letters should need some calculations, otherwise all of them are provided by Lewis Carroll. And this one has been exhibited in 2015 in the 150th year celebration in New York. And then for calculation of Alice's height, her standard height, we have to base on this information to calculate a 7-year-old girl, the height of her 7-year-old, and her head should be 7.5 inches, 7 3/4 inches, and her full height is 6.5 heads. And it comes out is 47 inches and something. I rounded up into 48 inches. Okay, another calculation is for when Alice slipped into the pool of tears, I have to find out the way to calculate it. Based on this information, 6.5 heads to calculate her actual height. We know from the text that Alice has fallen into a pool of 4 inches deep up to her chin. So we can presume that Alice, the body is 4 inches high. The only problem is how to calculate her head. Okay, now from 6.5 heads, now we can decide that her body is 5.5 heads. And her height is 4 inches, so we can find out her head is 3/4 inch. All in all, in general, her head is 4 3/4 inches. Now, I start with the chapter 1. I'll go chapter by chapter as if we were the reader of the books. Now, chapter 1, Martin Gardner annotated the very first annotation for Martin Gardner is he discussed the pictures of Alice. But instead, I tried to avoid this. He used 350 words. It's a long explanation. I just used 65 words to explaining Alice was a popular name. I just discussed the name of Alice, and I even go through the letters of Lewis Carroll and find out that Lewis Carroll know at least 12 Alice girls from the book. And the latest information is of the top 200 names in England and Wales in 1860. Alice ranked number 8 for girls. This all added in the Chinese version. And in order to add things related to Alice, although it's not related to the story, I have added whatever information I can find, such as the lexical staircase. It's a very, very beautiful staircase, and I think that the reader should know about this. And also in chapter 1, and I think Martin Garner make a mistake here. When he mentioned about this is the first death joke in Alice books, actually it should be the second one, because from this book to William Emerson's, the second joke, this is the second joke, death joke. This is the first death joke. So whenever Alice mentioned about falling from the roof, it should be the second death joke instead of the first. Okay, and then, okay, this is confirmed to the readers that 4,000 miles is correct, just with reference to the textbook in Victorian time. Another thing I try to introduce, where does the day begin, proposed by Lewis Carroll, with reference to latitude and longitude. I try to use this chance to introduce his work. Also, for this part, this is a small passage involves 4 things to annotate. First thing, of course, is conversion. It's very simple. You do not need to know about it. The second thing, I'll discuss the figures of Alice. Therefore, I think Joseph has mentioned about this. Taylor has mentioned a lot of this, and I'll also discuss her picture, but from a different angle than Martin Garner. The third thing, I would discuss the little door. Actually, the little door in the story actually was this one. This is the back of the wall, and Lewis Carroll was working here. So, looking at a map, the map is here. Okay, Lewis Carroll lives here, and he works here, and this is Alice's house where she lives, and both of them can see the little door here. Okay, for Victorian time, girls used to pray dollhouses. I don't know why Martin never mentioned about the dollhouse. So I just try to find out whether Lewis Carroll has made any reference to the dollhouses. And I try with these 2 parts. Chapter 1, she mentioned about a little door, 15 inches, and her height was 10 inches. And in chapter 7, when she eventually went into the garden, she changed about herself into 1 foot high. I just want to find out, is there any relationship with the door and the doorhouses? Okay, so this is the idea of her first time changed into 10 inches, and eventually 11 times when she changes herself into 1 foot. Okay, now I try to find information from internet, talking about how scale is my doll's house. The article mentioned that the doorway should be for 1 to 12 scale doorhouses. The doorway should be 6 to 7.5 inches, and door should be 5 to 6 inches. But it has nothing to do with these 3 figures. So I double the size of the doorhouse, and then find out that 10 inches is exactly here, and 12 inches is here. And 50 inches meets the 15 inches description. So it seems that Carroll is referencing to a dollhouse. Next, I'll try with another example. Chapter 5, when Alice was in her regular size, that means my calculation is she's 4 feet, and she came upon a house that was 4 feet high, and then she changed herself into a 9 inches high door. And this is the change number 8 and number 9. And here it is. A 7-year, 4 feet tall girl with a 4 feet tall dollhouse and a 9 inches door here. So it looks perfect that I think Lewis Carroll is referring to a dollhouse. And then one, I think, Garner make a mistake here when he mentioned about there's no label on the side, but if we look at a bottle in the Victorian time, they have a label on the side. And from this illustration, it shows that actually they have two labels. One is from the manufacturer, from pharmaceutical company. The other one might be from the doctor. This is his inscription that drink me. It should be here. And if it's poisonous, it should be marked here. So this is something should be corrected. Another thing Connor did not mention is about logic. And when Alice thinking about going larger or going smaller and she forget the middle ground, then so that means she's violating the law of excluded middle. This needs to, I have added in my Chinese annotation. And these two, of course, are for the Chinese exclusively. These are the grammar, one syllable or two syllable words. I think Alice make a mistake about this. Should be three syllables instead of two. And Christmas, we have said that during Queen Victoria time, Christmas become a time for gift giving and a special season for children. And this is also for the Chinese that I have confirmed that William the Conqueror is about 800 years earlier than the story, which is okay. And then about the money, how expensive is 100 pounds? And have referred to Lewis Carroll's diary saying that in the year of 1955, he earned more than 300 pounds. That means buying a dog costs about 1/3 of his annual salary. Now you have the sense of how expensive the dog is. And about this, who am I? It's about us, herself about who am I? I think all the passage refer to a game by the name Who Am I? This is the handwriting of Lewis Carroll. Okay, so eventually I refer this as a game instead of, I think Martin did not mention anything about it. And then about this is about etiquette, Victorian etiquette. I'm older than you and must know better. If we could compare with the handwriting versus underground, and know better was written as know best. And if we compare with the Victorian etiquette, the wording are exactly, except that eventually Carroll changed it a little bit to know better. Okay, these are for the Chinese again. These are formal. This is very dry story. Another one is a language that could not be understood in terms of English. So I just explained to the readers that this is a very formal writing, and this is another formal way of writing for the parliamentary procedures. And also this one talk about Thimble instead of Martin mentioned something about taxes, and I tried to change the other subject. What I changed is that the thimble, there is a game, Victorian time, they find the thimble is a game. All the children should leave the room before, when they come back, the thimble was hidden in somewhere, let them to find. Another thing is that the Victorian children learn to sew, learn needlework very early, could be as early as 4 years old. So it brings very close connection to them. Before I continue, I'd like to raise my proposal that we should see Daniel as the co-author of the book. You know why? You read this section when Alice, chapter 7, beginning of the section, when they mention, simply said that Alice sat down Lewis Carroll never mentioned how she sat down. And then John Tenniel illustrated her as in a very improper way of sitting down. And if we compare with a statue in Wellington, we can see that this is how a Victorian lady should sit than this one. So you know that chapter 7 has a very big theme all about etiquette. It's all kinds of violation of etiquette in this chapter. So if you read this chapter together with a Victorian etiquette, you will find more interesting about it. Okay, so actually, John Tenniel knows what exactly Lewis Carroll meant in this chapter. So I think that what Lewis Carroll did not say, it was illustrated in Tenniel's drawings. And another example is this one in chapter 7, Looking Glass. And when the king told the unicorn that you should not run him through with your horn, I have a hunch that Lewis Carroll might refer to something, I don't know. So when I try to look at the illustrations, I try to find hints from this illustration. And this is what I found, the fist. With this fist, I look for bare knuckle boxing. And it shows that this is their rule, and in 1938, this is such a rule, 53, this is such a rule that butting with the head shall be deemed foul. So I think that Lewis Carroll actually is referring to this rule when he mentioned that the unicorn should not run him through with the lion through with the horn. Okay, and here comes John Tenniel as the co-author again. So with the previous discussion, I suddenly realized that, what's the dog doing here in this illustration? Because in chapter 3, the dog is never an important figure in the chapter, except that the mouse is more important than it. And why the dog is replacing the mouse, and he was hidden here somewhere, not unnoticed. So, and I learned from Edward Wakeling that the ape in this chapter has moved from somewhere to here. And I realized that the identity of these three figures, Alice's sisters are grouped here, Carol's sisters are grouped here, sister and aunt are grouped here, just exactly behind Carol, and her sisters are grouped behind her, and that Doc Robinson Dog was an examining chaplain in 1954. So all this arrangement reminds me of a wedding ceremony, and especially when a thimble looks so alike with the wedding ring. So my conclusion is that they look exactly like a wedding ceremony. And as I know that someone might not be pleased with this suggestion, but however, this is what my discovery. And is it possible that Lewis Carroll used John Tenniel to convey his intention to marry Alice? I don't know, just open for discussion. My report was written here in 2014, my first article with a 9 letter. Okay. Here's for the benefit of Chinese again. What does crab stand for and oyster stand for? I have to explain to them. And here, something missing from other annotations, that when Alice was leaning against a buttercup with herself, and I found that she's in danger again, because buttercup is a poisonous plant. Their irritation qualities are probably the basis for the children's game of butter love. Prolonged contact with more comfortable results. So possibly, Lewis Carroll meant that she was in danger, just like that joke. So in this part, chapter 5, when the caterpillar asks, "Who are you?" Okay, now Gardner say something like this. It's a phrase used in Oxford, sometime like that, 171 words. I just mentioned it very shortly that this is a very rule question, referred to chapter 8 when the Queen of Hearts first met Alice. What's your name, child? Just for comparison. And in this part, about a footman, for the benefit of Chinese, I have to explain the duty and how they look for a footman. And also I try to refer to Dean Liddell's household that from this John Ruskin's article suggests that Dean Liddell, his household has at least 2 footmen. Okay, how am I to get in is another question that is logical question, and this is what we call compound question. It involves 2 questions in one. So this is a very important instruction to the readers. Okay, another thing Gardner did not mention is that these 2 drawings should come at the same position of the page, such as this. This one is the original text. From this page and this page, he mentioned about something like this. If you look up the corner of the list, you will have Alice looking at a grin. That means they should be positioned at the same corner of the page. And for chapter 7, Alice in Wonderland, and why with an M, and the much say why not. Gardner annotated about why not. Instead, I annotated on the M from the knot number 10, Tango Tale, that only a butler of experience who can manage a series of 3 M's. I think Lewis Carroll might meant to tease himself as stutterer who can have difficulty with pronouncing M's. Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. Is it about 10 minutes warning? Okay. It's a pity that I have only 10 minutes left. Just chapter 7. Okay, I just try to go another 10 minutes. Okay, for chapter 8, you can see John Tenniel has add heads and limbs to the gardeners, but in this scene, he has to get rid of their heads and limbs in order to hide their identity. And then, if you compare with the court of ancient time, you'll realize that the king of Hearts should not have mustache. And also the Queen of Hearts. This costume actually referring to Queen of Spades and not Queen of Hearts. Another mistake. Also, it's a very, very famous phrase that the Queen often say, off with their heads. And you will compare with Lewis Carroll's illustration, he might mean that it's a nonsense. They do not have heads. How can I cut off their heads? Okay, when Carroll mentioned about the flamingo trying and fell, helpless way of flying on a treetop, but actually should be ostrich. Ostrich could not fly, but this bird can fly. Maybe he mixed up. He did not change the nature of the animal. And here, chapter 6, when Alice was 9 inches tall, she met the Duchess, and since she was 1 foot tall, she meet the Duchess again. What's wrong with the Duchess? Okay, this is just to explain to the Chinese that they are not speaking standard English. And about this day school, and so proud about this is about the Victorian education system. That day school is seldom people can go to the day school, and also especially when Alice never go to school, right? And also because only well-to-do family can go to a day school, so So it explains why the person who can go to a day school is so proud of himself. And of course, this is for the Chinese to telling that reading, writing, and arithmetic referring to the 3 R's in Victorian time. And also the white slates, and also the system of jury, also for the Chinese. And also the method of addition, so complicated, I have to explain to the Chinese as well. And also at the end of this chapter, that we can tell differences from the illustration that the cuts are not reversible at that time, and they have indexes, and the corners are square. This is something we should refer to them. And I think I would stop here because of time limit. I just want to show you that this book also has a extended fold-out here. But you don't need it because you know chess so well. But for the Chinese, we need it. They don't never learn about the chess. I think I'm sorry that I could not continue to tell you. I have so much to tell you. This is about explaining how the Chinese chess and the English chess are different. Just to inform you that the horse and the knight go exactly the same way. So why they are so similar. And this is the way the looking glass looks like. And well, the first poetry about half a life asunder is exactly that Lewis Carroll was 40, and when Alice was 20, exactly half a life. Okay, I think I have to stop here because of the time control. Thank you so much. Thank you.